Hello Internet, I am the hero of Julios, once again with another One Piece chapter summary. This week's chapter is chapter 1101, To Bonney. The artwork this week is a lovely color spread of all the Vegapunks together with Yor and Shaka kind of, what's the term? It's when you put stuff on the sides of bookends. They're bookending the group of Vegapunk as they're in front of the Vega Force 1, kind of a Power Rangers style arrangement here. God, I wish York wasn't evil. That still hurts me right here. Unfortunate for me, but anyways, we all move on from things. So, speaking of moving on, let's get into the actual chapter itself. The chapter starts off with Kuma on the island of Goa, in the kingdom of Goa, on Luffy's island, as he's seeing the young Luffy at age 16 using his mighty Gum axe to take out a giant boulder, and he's like, okay, that's a finishing move right there. If anyone ever tries to take away my crew or capture them or mess with them, I'm gonna finish them off with a good old Gum axe. And these animals are watching him, they're cowering, and he's like, oh, what's wrong with you guys? I don't eat cowards. So keep that in mind. Luffy doesn't eat cowards. Every animal Luffy has eaten, if you really think about it, like go back and look, every animal Luffy's eaten has been brave enough to try him. So either that or Sanji has cooked it up, so Sanji doesn't worry, or Luffy doesn't worry about that. But every animal Luffy has eaten has been an animal that has fought him to the death. As Kuma is watching this young Luffy, though, he thinks back to a moment he had with Dragon where they were visiting the Goa Kingdom, and Kuma was like, Dragon, I've kind of noticed we come back to this island a lot. I get it, the Goa Kingdom is nice, and it's got some scary nobility that we have to keep an eye on for revolutionary reasons, but you seem really fascinated with this island, and I gotta admit, I did see a kid on this island that looks a lot like you. And at that moment, Dragon's just like, well, Kuma, would you like to say that louder and get me killed? And Kuma's just like, okay, buddy, what's going on here? As he tells Kuma, a child is a parent's greatest vulnerability. So, somewhere inside of himself, the stoic Dragon knows that even he would be in a ton of trouble if his young son Luffy was captured. Now, I know what you're all thinking. Well, hang on. Didn't Luffy almost die in Logtown? Yes, Dragon saved him. Why do you ask? Didn't Luffy get sent to Impel Down? Not in a timely manner that Dragon would have heard about. Why do you ask? Didn't Luffy challenge the world government? Yes, Dragon did that too. Why do you ask? Everything Luffy has done since setting off from the Goa Kingdom has been things Dragon himself did in his youth. I think what Dragon meant when he was talking to Kuma was more of, while Luffy is tiny little potato baby, he is my greatest weakness because, look at my son, he cannot defend himself. Now Luffy turns into giant sun god mode and punches everything that disagrees with him. I don't think Dragon's super worried about his baby boy being in danger. Plus, Dragon is a firm believer in living your life without regrets. How hypocritical would he be if he caged up Luffy to keep him safe? I think it was just as Luffy was a child, he was Dragon's greatest weakness. Now that Luffy is able to take on the government himself, Dragon doesn't really have a weakness. But as Kuma is watching this young Luffy train, he gets a little bit on his transponder snail and just himself away before Luffy notices. It's one of those, flashback that we just kind of see that Kuma knows Luffy existed, which honestly explains Thriller Bark. Now that makes sense, with Kuma being like, he really is your son, Dragon. So, between Ivankov, being like, hey Dragon, how come you're always looking to the east? And Kuma flat out seeing Luffy, the left and right hands of the Revolutionary Army leader, they knew about Luffy. They learned about Luffy, or at least in Ivankov's case, something in the East Blue was very important to him. So while Kuma himself away from the situation, he gets a message from the government telling him, there's a merchant ship that got attacked, take out the pirates. Kuma goes, he helps the merchants first. He always, takes care of the needy first. Then he goes to the pirates and goes, hey, surrender peacefully, I'm the man with the pawpaw fruit, and I'm going to go, and then you're never going to see your families ever again. And they're just like, oh my gosh, give them your gold. We don't want to die to the tyrant. Go ahead. No, just take it. We lose. We surrender. And Kuma continues about his days in the East Blue, working, doing things, and probably going to other parts of the world. But all the while, he is sending letters to his darling daughter, Bonney. These letters, unfortunately, only make it as far as the Sorbet Kingdom, where Alpha intercepts the mail and shreds up the mail, kind of giving the vibe that Kuma's not writing to his daughter. This bites her in the butt later, mind you, so don't be too sad. Just let that anger simmer for a moment. During this time period, though, Bonney is training. Bonney is practicing all the different distorted futures she's got. She, has her muscle future. She's got her probably a stretching future, probably a, powerful future, maybe even weak future. She does practice her elderly future as she makes herself look like Connie a lot. And all the while, they keep this a secret from the CP8 agents because, as Granny Connie puts it, a wise hawk hides its talons. This is going to be the trump card that they use later to make their own changes to what's going on. So time passes and little Bonnie's 9th birthday shows up. She's super happy about it because, she's been taking this bitter medicine, which turns out to just be bitter syrup. And Kuma has been popping in and out of doing his warlord duties, but also showing up at revolutionary events where, the chips are down, the revolutionary army's in trouble, they're losing whatever battle, and then big giant cyborg Kuma shows up, destroys everything, and then leaves without a word. Every time this is brought to Dragon's attention, his response is simply, I'm sure Kuma has his reasons, he's not attacking us, so there's no reason to pursue this. Dragon, his hands are tied as the leader of the Revolutionary Army. Dragon has to focus on the big picture. He cannot worry about the small details. He can't worry about Ivankov being impelled down. He can't worry about Kuma trying to save his little girl. Dragon has to focus on saving the world. And unfortunately, a hero will sacrifice you to save the world. It's unfortunate, but it's true. A real hero will trade one life for 1 billion. Dragon is a hero. Now, Luffy would burn down the world for one friend. Luffy, by how weirdly contextualized things work, the government has a right to put a bounty on this little straw hat monster's head, because Luffy literally told the world government, I will destroy you all for my depressed 28-year-old friend. And yeah, declared war on the world government for Robin. Dragon can't do that. Dragon's already declared war on the world government. He doesn't have that big oomph moment anymore. But that's pretty much all the info we get on Dragon and Kuma as Kuma's doing what he's doing. But things finally click into place as little Bonney realizes she's cured. She's healthy. She's 9.5 years old. She was told by Vegapunk it would take, when she was 8, she was told it would take half a year to heal, to, get cured. And then it would take 1 year to recover. 9.5. Let me out. And Alpha's like, oh, no, we gotta keep you here. We gotta keep you here forever, because Bartholomew Kuma works for us now, and we gotta make sure he's a soulless robot. So you just stay here, Bonney. And Alpha leaves, and that's when Granny Connie comes in, and she says, so that lady works for the government. And everyone's like, what? Yeah, she's a Cypher Pull agent. So I overheard some of them, they got drunk, and one of them let it slip. Don't ask which one. I think it was Craig from their accounting department. He's a little loose-lipped when he gets a hit with a glug, So we got to get you out of here, because don't you find it a little suspicious that you're fully cured and you haven't gotten a letter from your dad in a few years? And Bonnie's just like, yeah, that is suspicious. So what's the plan? A wise hawk hides their talons. And we have hidden the fact that Bonney has the power of the age fruit. So Bonney becomes a little old lady, puts on Connie's coat and hat and says, "Okay, hello, Miss Alpha, I'm going to take my stuff and I'm going to head back to the castle." And Alpha's like, "Okay, Granny Connie, you go ahead and do that. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, Queen Dowager of the Sorbet Kingdom," who is definitely not a little girl in disguise because I don't know that devil fruit exists. I wonder what that little Bonney girl is up to. She's been quiet a lot. Meanwhile, Bonney, disguised as Connie, she's walking with her big suitcase and stuff, and she's looking around. She sees the grass. She's touching dirt. She looks up and sees the sun. The little girl who has spent her entire life in the darkness has finally stepped into the light. As she gets to the edge of the shoreline, she sees this big boat that looks like donuts and pizza and candy and everything our little glutton loves to eat. As we learn from Connie that the fishermen of the Sorbet Kingdom are not just ordinary fishermen. They are very buff, they are very tough, and as we saw, they're at least strong enough to get to the New World. Maybe not survive the New World, because Blackbeard wiped them out, but they're enough to get to the New World. They take Bonney, and they begin to sail away. However, Alpha walks into the room, and she goes, "Where's Bonney?" And Connie's sitting there, and she's like, "Hello, I'm definitely Bonney." And she's like, that's not right. Okay, lethal force and, well, non-lethal violence is the exact wording. Lethal force on anyone that is not Bonney. So Alpha starts heading that way. She uses the 6 powers. She's jumping across the sky, heading straight towards them. And Bonney thinks back to what she asked her father. She says, "Dad, what is Nika like?" And he says, "He is a man whose body flowed like rubber, and he fought however he fancied." So Bonney, too, decides to fight however she fancies. She leaps off the boat, heading towards Alpha. Alpha's there ready to just kill the kid. And Bonney distorts her future and gives herself a Nika-like future as her arm inflates and she goes full gear third and just wallops that Cypher Pole agent right back down to the ground. And that's where we end today's chapter. So, a Nika-like future. That's the part I want to focus on here, because that means the age fruit can guess, but also be correct. All Bonney had to ask her fruit for was a Nika-like future. Knowing nothing about the sun god Nika except the things her dad told her, it's almost like the age fruit as far as the future she gives or the way she pops people between ages. She's allowed to distort it in similar to the same free way that Luffy can distort himself thanks to his devil fruit. They could be a very dangerous combination, especially if Bonney taps Luffy on the back and says, "Full potential future." I think that might be what Oda's trying to build up here. I know I'm not the first one to think that, but this is going to be very interesting, especially since we seem to be reaching the end of the Kuma flashback. We're getting to the part where Kuma, he saw Luffy, and from there on, we kind of see Kuma's actions. We know he and Doflamingo go to Mary Joie for a little bit. We know he offers to help Gecko Moria defeat Luffy, and then we know he becomes a soulless automaton. I still like to believe his soul is at Vegapunk's laboratory, but we'll have to find out when Kuma finally lands on Egghead Island, because let's face it, that's probably where he's flying to. Either that or he's off to fight a different one of the 5 elders. But hey, as always, let me know in the comments down below, because I'd like to hear anyone else's thoughts on how these things are panning out. I am looking forward to shifting from Kuma's flashback to Bonnie's flashback as we see her journey to the Grand Line and through to the New World, and heck, how she got away from Sakazuki, because last we saw her was Blackbeard was offering to let her be his girl. Different context now. But and then Sakazuki showed up and was like, "Oh, I felt a chill through my spine when I found out you went missing." And how did you get away from that? Ace couldn't even get away from that. So how did you get away from that, chained to a pole? However it happened, Bonney is where she is now, and we are reaching the end of our flashback. So, like I said, let me know in the comments below. I know I already said that, but I do want to hear people comment, and I do want to see where this adventure goes and where you think it's going to go. Thank you for watching as always, and I will see you in the next video. This is the Hero of Julios, Xing out.